say God has been great. God has been good. Yeah. So many things are happening, but we want to give God the glory. So to our Lens family, I want to say good morning, everybody. Good morning, and how are we doing? I can see that Susan is so engrossed talking to somebody. Anyway, I greet you, Sha. And then of course, how are you also? Because at times we are always asking of Ibina boss, Susan, we greet ourselves. They greet you too. So my people in WFM, how you not do?
All right, thank you very much, Vicky. We're fine, we're good, and hopefully this month will definitely be a good one for all of us. All right,
Yeah.
Susan, how are you today? How's the weekend? Happy new month, happy new week, and happy Workers' Day. Susan just get plenty things we should do like this. So now you be the real worker. So happy Workers' Day, Susan, in
Good
arrears.
morning, Rose.
Good
Good
morning.
morning, Mambuki. Happy New Month. Happy Workers' Day in arrears. It was a good one. I didn't go out. I intentionally refused to go to the Eagle Square because I wasn't interested in getting sunburn because I'm already battling that with the work we've done in the past. But hey, we are grateful that we're alive. Some of the workers who joined Workers' Day in 2025 are not here. So for everything, there is a reason to be thankful. It might not look like what we want it to be, but at least for the gift of life, we are grateful. And so happy new month, everyone, our valued listeners. And yeah, it's good to be back.
It's good to be back. All right, thank you so much, Susan. Hi, Binaba. Good morning to you. Happy new month, new week, and of course, happy Workers' Day in areas. How are you today?
Okay. Good morning, ladies. Happy New Month to everybody. Good morning, Lady Susan, Lady Buki, Lady Rose, and good morning to all our valued listeners. It's great to be here. I think the program was beautiful. But let's not go into that. It was in honor of one of a very great journalists, and it was beautiful. I don't want to go into that because it's a long story. But it was a very fantastic one. Thank you.
All right, thank you too, Binabo. It's good to have all of you here this morning on HerLens. All right, so just before we talk about other things, I would just want us to talk about the May Day, which was the 1st of May, because I mean, this actually affects a lot of us. In fact, everybody, private sector, public sector, and the welfare of workers all through. And let's not forget that if you don't have the workforce, your GDP is zero. If you don't have the workforce, you cannot carry yourself anywhere and go and say your country is progressing. Mbano. So the workforce actually make up Nigeria. They make up the economy of Nigeria. They make up every aspect of Nigeria. So if if you don't invest in their welfare, then I mean, you might just want to sit back and really go back to the drawing board. So a lot of people, we know that different parts of our economy is suffering. Health workers get their own, education people get their own, um the economy itself is not smiling on the people who are supposed to be making the whole Nigerian system work. So where do we go from there? There's poverty in Nigeria, there's insecurity, there is high cost of living in the country. Fuel that the same workers need to buy access is becoming gold, in the sense that it's getting really expensive for people to even get. So there's just a lot of things that are going on. And an average Nigerian worker could just sit back and just begin to number a whole lot of things that are going wrong. Maybe for those in the private sector, few of them could actually sit down and say, oh yeah, things are working well for me. Well, even those in the public sectors, maybe those in the high ranks, could actually sit and say, life is good for me, and forgetting probably where they're coming from or the ladder they had to climb to get there. So a lot of things have changed. the whole system in Nigeria is becoming something else. But the welfare of Nigerian workers should always be in the minds of our leaders. So I just wanted to say maybe one or two things as regards this, and then we get to look at something that also relates to workers, especially coming from the side of women who are going into maternity leave. But let's just touch on the workers and how a lot of things are not just working or going well for a lot of Nigerian workers, both private and public sector. So Susan, let's start with you on this. Your general thoughts as regards to the welfare of an average Nigerian employee, an average Nigerian who just wants to go to work, come back, see food to chop, see small light to take sleep because of heat, wake up the next day, go, maybe leave something for family, children go to school, and just live, life basically.
Rose, it was as if you were part of a conversation I had with my friend over the weekend. I spent the weekend with her, and she's also a worker. She's also a woman with a disability. She's an amputee, but she drives. So I was telling her that with the salary structure and everything that is happening, the cost of living, that I don't know if someone does not buy a car for me, that I am not sure I'm able to put together money to get a car. And yes, I am working. You see, we need to be very, very realistic, because workers are the engine room of the nation. And so if we must do right by them, we have to look into the welfare of workers. I know it had been reviewed a while ago where they, had some level of increase in the salaries. Yes, but is it commensurate with what our reality? You go to the market, you want to buy the basic things, and before you pick 3-4 things, you are hearing 100K. And in my head, I'm like, salary oshukonke. That is 1 month's salary. So we need to be realistic. The government needs to do more around welfare, security, and what have you of these workers. Because, everyone needs motivation. Everyone needs to be motivated, and it is this motivation that drives you every morning. Whether you're feeling well, you're feeling unwell, you just say, hey, I need to get to work. So I think the government needs to do more, because our cost of living, my dear sister, I have just used myself, and this is me who is working. I am wondering, will there be ever a time I can, because I'm looking at the responsibilities, the salary itself cannot take care of my needs. I still get support from relatives and what have you to survive every month, yet I am working. So I'm wondering, will I ever be able to, get a car, which for me is a basic need. It's not even luxury because of the amount of money I spend. And like you rightly pointed out, these workers commute every day to work. If you don't have a car, you are taking public transport, or you are taking Uber or Bolt. So look at all of these things. How do we ensure that the welfare of workers is improved? That, they don't get this kind of, and that is why you see that sometimes, especially in the public sector, there's this lackadaisical attitude around work. If you work in the public sector, there's this it is not pretense. But because the motivation is not there to support this worker. And when I say some of these things, I now bring it down to who looks at the cost of disability, even for workers with disabilities and other vulnerable groups, who supports their needs to ensure that even when they do this work, they can maximally, optimally work on equal basis. Do we have reasonable accommodation? I put this out on Workers' Day. It's not just let us employ them. Shebi, they said 5% is for persons who. Are you creating an enabling environment for these workers to thrive? Or you say, oh, no need, just sit at home, we'll pay you. Are you kidding me? So I went to the university to sit at home. No, it is because cost of living is too high. That is why you find it very difficult, to work and give your best. So I think that A lot needs to be done. A whole lot, Rose, needs to be done, whether it is public or private sector. And you talked about the rich, even those ones are the big man, big problem. Even those at that level, because they have also placed themselves on a particular pedestal to drop down. I was discussing just yesterday with my friend, and we're like, how will we cope? How will we even survive? You talked about light. If it was affordable, even to put solar panel in your house and at least make it no unalive human being, all these things, because even if I buy generator, am I not going to fuel it? Where is this money going to come from? Let's just be real. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susan. You touched on a lot of issues, and I like the fact that you also, took it from the points of people living with disabilities. A lot of times when we talk of these issues, we just look at how it even concerns us, let alone, those that really, it does concern a lot more. Talking about vulnerable groups and people with, disability. All right, Buki, let's hear from you on this, Workers' Day, conversations, and then where we are supposed to be, as regards to the welfare of, the Nigerian employee.
All right, thank you very much, Susan. Thank you for setting the tone, if I could use that, because while Susan was talking, I was thinking of so many perspectives as well that those who, are even going through a whole lot of hardship, many a times we don't even talk about, the widows. Even, I mean, yeah, even talk about even the widowers, but it's more for the widows, that don't even have any form of support. Um, and how do they live? You understand? I remember a particular case of it's one of the international companies. Yes, it was one of the international companies. I'm not too sure. Maybe it's UN. I'm not too sure. Yeah. But anyway, I love what they did. The husband died. The husband was the one who was working in that organization, and I don't know. Maybe it's their policy. I don't know. But along the line, they found out that they needed to support, the woman, and thankfully she's a graduate, so they had to bring her into that organization so that she can continue earning, a good pay. I mean, it wasn't that they overlooked some things, or they looked at where, her qualification, would fit in, and, she continued, that. So she was able to to take care of the family and all that. Yeah. So while Susan was talking, I just remembered, me meeting that lady in Abuja. That was about 5 or 6 years ago. So I got interested, and that was the story, that I got. So going back to the Workers' Day, now I remember where I was. Yes, I went for a Sweet Sisters burial service, and then came back, to sit with, the current affairs of the day, and also went on to view platform and things like that, talking about innovation and all that. So yeah, I remember now. So for me, my own perspective now is Workers' Day is a day that even if you do not think of any other thing that day, think about the welfare of the workers. And like Susan said, we are the engine room. When you talk about the country's production, the country's GDP, who makes it? And if we even break it down, we know today that the SMEs are the ones that is contributing about 85%, in terms of workforce, And then to the GDP, we talk about at least between 48 to 50% that is being contributed, to our GDP. And if we are actually looking at a 1 trillion economy that this present government is looking at, then we need to begin to look at Who are these ones that can produce it? We talk about fintech sector, we talk about agri sector, we talk about services sector. These are the leading sectors, and then of course, all other sectors contribute. But the question for me is that who are the workers that are in this sector? How can we create a better welfare system for them, that they can produce their best? Somebody who the children has not gone to school, who they don't eat properly, you understand, whose place of living does not even make the person happy. How do you expect the person, to produce the best when that person goes to work? And maybe even in terms of transport, the person will have to walk one way, and probably take Okada or look for somebody, he or she can each a ride on. Many people do that, you have a car, let me wait for you, and all that and all that. It's because they see that if they have to go their own way, it is eating deep. So how do we begin to look at these things holistically such that the productiveness of a human being, can be increased? For me, even if they cannot increase, the minimum wage, because we are also looking at the public sector, the private sector, how many people can actually pay that? I mean, let's be frank. As an SME, you have employed somebody. Let us look at your own profits. How much are you even making that you want to say you want to employ two graduates and you want to pay them that higher amount? You understand? I'm not saying we should not. That is what we're supposed to do. But from the government side, I also want us to look at it from what are the things we can do. This issue of fuel, they have to stabilize it. It cannot be floating, because people can plan towards it. Take, for instance, food. What are we doing concerning, essential commodities, particularly things that have to do with children? What are we doing concerning light? You understand? Is it something that we can do to stabilize, the prices, right? Not this issue of band A, band B, band C. I don't understand it. But can we give people light, right? And control it in such a way that if you want it, you have it. If you don't need it, you don't need it. You understand? When I mean like that, in the afternoon, right? But in the night, when we need the light and things like that, for a worker who has gone and come back, you understand? Can we look at cheaper tariffs for them? I mean, so this is where you probably have to put in a subsidy, but in a controlled environment, not that it will not be hijacked. Because even the advanced countries that we're looking at, they still subsidize even food. That is why food is cheap. They still subsidize. They have a system where they encourage farmers to go farm and find a way around it. What are we doing concerning that? If food is cheap, right? And then talking about transportation, relatively cheap, is heavily subsidized, right? Yes, I know the government is doing CNG and all that, but that one too has its own issues. You understand? And how many people can actually convert? Yes, I know that, because I know that some people were thinking that of recent, President Tinubu released, I think it was it not 100 whatever CNG buses and all that. Show Tony, is it enough? No, this thing should be flooded that even people will prefer to park their cars and go by bus, because one, it's cheap, two, it's comfortable. Not that we are squeezing ourselves inside the goods and you are competing with the person who is coming back from the market, who has pepper, who has vegetable. I mean, a decent means of transportation for workers. The people who have goods, they can have their own different transportation, because we need to, we're talking about decent living, right? So for me, I'm looking at that perspective that by the time we are able to do this, and then when we talk about education, if we say education is free, let it really be free, free with quality. Not that we are saying it's free, and then when the children get there, they'll say you have to buy uniform, you have to buy school, you have to pay for this, you have to pay for that. Free, right? And then, of course, quality. The reason why people are moving away from public, to private is that the quality of education is not good. So if they're able to look at these things, at least give people a bit of calmness, if I can use that word, where when you look at your pay, you know that some things have been taken care of. You only need to take care of one or two other things, probably where you live and things like that, because of course, government has not been able to build a lot of houses. But we need to begin to look at that can we begin to build houses? I mean, Singapore did that. Today we talk about over 90% of Singaporeans owning a home, and they have a good housing policy. Once you start working, you begin to pay. I know a state, I'm not too sure, maybe it's Lagos, they're trying to think about that when you start, instead of you paying, for the house, you start renting, and somewhere along the line it becomes yours. We need to begin to look at those things, those supportive things, to help the worker, be resilient. We talk about Nigerians being resilient. None, so that's what I want to chip in. Thank you.
All right. Thank you to Buki for all of your thoughts on this and how you looked at it holistically and some of the things that we can do to make the life of a Nigerian worker, better. I was listening to a podcast a few days back, and I can't remember the name of the man, but I think it's just the clips of it on social media. And the man was saying, Nigerians don't even need much. Nigerians, do they, can we even afford electricity? We cannot even, an average Nigerian cannot afford to pay for electricity. What the man just wants, or what the average Nigerian just wants, is to be able to come back from work, see light to sleep. Once he leaves for work in the morning, take the light, bring it in the night for him and family to sleep. Then the organizations give them light during the day. That is all. Oh. In the night, take it from there and give people in their homes to sleep, and that is all they need. That is all Nigerians. So to please an average Nigerian is not a is not you traveling to Mars, or is not you going to Jupiter to go and bring the solution. It is just something that could just that is just readily available, that we could just make it work out. But a lot is just not going the way it should. But I just hope that things get better. All right, so it's about 27 minutes to 10 right here on Your Women Radio WFM 91.7. And this is HerLens. So we discuss, dissect, and disagree on topical issues right here on Nigeria's first radio station for women and their families. All right, Ibinabo, I'll just bring you in on the conversation right now. Just wrap this conversation up for us before we head on to the next thing. Workers' Day has passed, but so far, and you being in the employment space for so long, changing jobs, just look at your experience and what is happening right now and how we can just make it better, for the Nigerian worker, so that our lives could be better.
Okay, thank you, Lady Rose. We celebrate Workers' Day every year.
Yeah.
If you collect all the episodes we have had on this program for the past five years, you will realize that we are saying the same thing over and over.
Hi, Binabo, are you there? Binabo, can you hear me?
That's very, very painful. It is painful because we know what issues we have on ground, yet we scarcely do much about it. And I'm talking about our leaders. You see, insecurity and poverty are deeply interconnected. And it will always create wide-ranging negative effects on individuals, on communities, and even national development. And if you look at the effects of insecurity and poverty, we're talking about economic decline. The ladies have spoken so much about that. We are looking at kidnapping. We're looking at banditry, insurgency, and so on and so forth. This would discourage investment, and it has been disrupting businesses. Farmers have abandoned their lands. Markets close early Some markets, you go to the market that maybe by 6, you will see find some people. If you go to some marketplaces, by 5, they don't pack their load, go house, because the day must not go dark and meet them in the market. So all of these activities are affecting supply chains. So you see, definitely the issues that we are discussing today will affect productivity. Of course, we know that unemployment has increased and it has largely affected the economy. And now, a worker, minimum wage is 70,000 naira. Tell me, what a person who is supposed to feed well, at least if you have a job and you are a civil servant, for example, you should be able to feed well. Nobody's talking about you even having your own property. Maybe you built a house or something, but at least the everyday food. Can we really sincerely say that a minimum wage earner can feed properly, can feed well? Feeding well does not mean when they look into your plate, they will see large pieces of meat. No, that's not what I'm saying. But I mean, little things. You can't. The problem, I will always say, is hydra-headed, and nobody is willing to cut these hydra heads. It's like we are on a cul-de-sac road. That is a road that is closed off at one end. So when all of us rush down the road, we are choked. That is what we are going through. One of the ladies talked about fear. How, even if you don't have a car, from one place to another, you are going to board vehicles. Is it that yours that you're going to buy fuel, or you pay for transportation? Have you gone out to see how expensive it is to move from one end to the other in a state? You're not going outside of the state, within a state. You have to be mindful of the distance you are traveling, or else you will be stranded. And you have to be mindful of how much you have in your pocket, or else you will go somewhere, you don't know if it come back again. I mean, these are problems that have persisted, and what have we done as leaders in the communities, as government? Because you see, if we begin to tag non-performance as a taboo, and I think we are going to get there someday, when non-performance should be termed a taboo for anybody, from the least, that is the local government, that is the councillor, up to the president. Because sometimes, like, I talk a lot about food, because without food, without health, good health, I mean, who are we talking to? And if I'm allowed to digress a little bit, do you know that I bought bread and kept in my house? And this Lady Rose, Lady Buki, Lady Susan, and all our listeners, the bread is about 2 weeks in my house, and it is still fresh. It is still fresh. And you will talk about it as some, I don't want to use any adjective on them. We'll come out and say, you are talking about bread. Why are you condemning bread? So if bread are supposed to start changing taste and even appearance in less than a week, would last 2 weeks plus and still look fresh, I deliberately did that. Then what are we consuming? This is part of the poverty, because you cannot afford to bake your own bread at home. So you have to go and buy bread somewhere. I don't know which of the bread you are buying. Maybe the one where they don't kill with preservative. They don't take all the preservative in this world, take choker. So even in 1 year, the bread will still remain fresh. And when you consume such, what happens to your system, digestive system? And do we have the health sector to accommodate these people when they come down with diseases? So you see, our problem indeed is hydra-headed, and so our leaders are not ready to cut down these heads. And I say that until we make non-performance a taboo. Because you cannot come and keep telling us one story or the other as if we are stupid. And then to the people, I'm digressing because election is around the corner.
Yeah.
I mean, a few months, the very first month of next year to the second month, there'll be activities. We'll be going to the polls. Because you see, when you want to reel out all the negative aspects of insecurity and poverty, are you going to talk about increased crime and social instability? Are you going to look at health challenges? You want to talk about poor education outcomes, where insecurity has driven people into IDP camps, where poverty has become deeply entrenched, where people have limited access to education, where we have shortages of food. You can't afford good food in the market. So when we talk about May Day, it's not a day to celebrate. It's a day to sit down and take into account how we have fared for the 1 year. Because, Rose, I tell you, ladies, this time next year, God preserve our lives, we will still talk about the same topic. We'll still go down the same lane. So it is, I mean, we are like a record stuck in this groove. We keep repeating ourselves. And I dare say that our leaders definitely, they know the right thing to do. They know what to do. For me, I would have thought that somebody mentioned subsidy and fuel. I think that was Boki or so. I would have thought that when Mr. President realized that the governors, some of the governors, some are working, some of the governors are not actually, applying the excess subsidy money given to them to alleviate the suffering of their people, then you do it yourself. If there are ways to do it, I mean, talk with the National Assembly members. I mean, look, it have felt the impacts. And I agree totally with Buki that all this banditry, they are all, I don't know what to call it. I mean, what are we talking about? Growing up, I never knew anything about band. Even with the band, do they get the minimum number of hours that you get power? Their area should be powered per day. No, and nobody is being called to question it. Nobody is answering to that question. You say an area is band A, and you're not giving them 20 hours minimum power supply. We are always giving excuses of not enough, they cannot generate this. I mean, we can't keep on living like this. This is the height of corruption. This, I mean, of all, I mean, we are sitting on the apex of it. So please, and maybe somebody was saying that recently, have you heard that workers are going on strike and everything? I said it's because their leaders don't know what to do. Because you're always coming out to fight for increased wages. To me, it doesn't make sense. Because if they increase your salary today, tomorrow you will hear from the market woman. Next tomorrow, you will hear from your landlord. You will hear from your children's schools. And then what is the difference that has been added to your salary? You're going to spend it and it will not be enough. You are still going back to square one. So, but if other activities are taken care of, if you are looking at education, you are looking at security and all of that, even when the person is paid 50,000 naira as minimum wage, if all things being equal, all things are properly, managed, and we are living with in a very fantastic economy, I mean, your 50K itself you go chop and go remain. You have enough to spend and spare. So we need pragmatic intelligence in solving our problems with enough energy, enough verve, and disciplined iteration. Because you cannot be disciplined in the morning, then in the afternoon, you are doing something else. With consistency, it's tiring. You need to hear, I was at a program, like I told you, the other program had to do with May Day. And everything, and in fact, I was almost losing my mind. I had to leave that hall because of the lamentation of the people, the speakers and everything. The one is saying things that were not we, that we know, but sometimes when you're the one talking, yes, but when somebody is now saying it to you, it's like, oh, don't blow my head to pieces. So we are going to come back here next year. Lady Rose, Lady Buki, Lady Susan, and all the wonderful people listening to us. And we are going to sound like broken record, talk in his groove. So I hope and pray that our eyes go open. We go realize that nobody should put us on a cul-de-sac road where the end, one end is closed, so that all of us rush there and choke. We need to have, I mean, there should be exit points on every road, so that if, okay, you're a worker, what can you do else to add to your purse, this and that? Do you know that part of this economy is the reason why we have a lot of divorce cases? We can't go into that now. So please, our leaders should do right by the people. Please, thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much, Buki, for your thoughts. Sorry, now beg your pardon, for your thoughts on all of the conversation this morning, and talking about divorce cases and how we work in the country. Yesterday, I was having a conversation with my husband, and he was like, "Ah, this weekend like this, eh? Upon say public holiday day safe, that he can't even think whether we actually spend like 2 or 3 hours together just sitting down talking, because there's just one activity that every one of all of us are just rushing to do before the whole weekend end." And then yesterday he was like, "So now we tell ourselves that we spent the weekend. How did we even spend the weekend?" So I can just imagine how this has become a strain on a lot of families. And that same yesterday too, my dad was telling one of his brothers that he should make sure that whatever he's doing, he should have time for his kids and try to put, himself in them. Try to make sure that they have part of him, because a time will come where there will be a gap that he'll be struggling to fill. And by that time, it will be too late, because the children must have already formed all of their thought process. They formed who they want to be already, so it will be very hard to actually change whatever they have become by that time. So now that they're still little, he should try as much as he can and be present. Whatever he has to do to be present, he has to do to be present, because a lot of things are happening right now. And then this conversation is coming up today, so it's just bringing a lot of things to mind. Do we have a system that does not encourage having a balanced and a balanced lifestyle? Because every now and then you have a lot of organizations say, "Oh, make sure you have a work-life balance, make sure you have a work-life balance." A few of them actually trying to do so, but for a lot of other organizations, both public or private, or all of us are just trying to get to that point. I was privy to, some information about a lady who works with, an American company. And the next thing she's saying that, oh, she has slight headache. She doesn't think she can walk. I'm like, just slight headache. Should be something that you just take a pain relief now. Because she said, no, that she should, that if they dare hear that, she's working with that slight headache, is something else. The next time I'm hearing her is that, oh, her kids are coming back from school. And even she herself, this is the first time she's working with American company. And she was like, why are all these, some of these the foreigners who are in the country, one, you hear, oh, my dog is, I have to take my dog to the vet. I have to do this one. I'm sorry, I can't go. Just giving a lot of excuses that when you bring it to the table here, an employer will look at you and say, you're not serious to work. Please, just leave my space first. You're not serious. But meanwhile, these are some of the things that actually keep them together. I saw another video that in China now, safe, when they are working, they have like an hour or 2 hours to just lay and perhaps sleep or whatever you want to do with that 2 hours within the workroom, so that when you come back, you're feeling energetic to continue your this, your that. I'm like, oh girl. When we all reach there like that, when we see the battle lights for our country, it's just a lot. It's just really a lot. All right, so our time is fast spent. I wanted us to touch on the maternity, leave. We know that a lot of organizations are giving 3 months now, but there's call to make it about 4 months. Yeah, yeah, there's a call to make it about 4 months, and then also stand on the 2 weeks paternity leave to the fathers, or maybe caretakers or caregivers, so that they're able to take care of their families. Even the fathers on self, they're trying to see how they can increase it. But then, this also shows how, I know some states are actually doing 6 months. That is state government, so giving, their workers 6 months maternity leave, paid maternity leave. But when you resume, they don't want to see you coming back with your kids, which is almost the same thing in some other places. So we just wanted to look at how all of that would work out. But I guess we'll start off with that tomorrow, and then we head down to other conversations. I would say this has been a very good one so far, and I just hope that we're able to understand the importance of keeping, or rather making the welfare of your workers a priority. You own an organization. Without them, that place wouldn't even run in the first place. Only you cannot be HR, only you cannot be cleaner, only you cannot be engineer, only you cannot be salesperson, only you cannot be customer service. So it's just wise that people that help you put your organizations together, and make it run and make it progress and make it what it is today, you get to appreciate them, look after their welfare, check up on them once in a while. Just, make sure that they are in tune with you and with your vision. And at the end of the day, you will see that now you self go dey rip and pass, because your bank go dey swell. All right, so this is where we'll just drop off the conversation for today. But tomorrow is another day, God's willing, we'll be here to take you on her lens. Thank you so much, ladies, for lending your voice to a lot of the issues that workers do face, especially within the country here. Hopefully things get better and we get to say a different thing by next year, Ibina. But hopefully by next year, we'll not come and sound like a broken record. Let's be hopeful. We're definitely hopeful that next year will be better when it comes to, Workers' Day, May Day, workers' welfare, and all of that. All right. So thank you so much, ladies, and to each and every one of you who tuned in to join the conversation today. We say a very big thank you to for joining us this morning. My name is Rose Yusuf Kaiser. Do well to keep your dial locked right here on Women Radio WFM 91.7. Good morning.